Hello, this is Catherine from SCB Housing. I apologize for anyone who's been waiting for the last 20 minutes. I started a meeting on the incorrect Zoom link, so that was my fault. I apologize for, again, anyone who was waiting. This is the lottery for Chicory Place Apartments in Nantucket. So I'm going to get started in just a minute. I know that some of you are still connecting to audio, so I'll give it a moment. All right, so again, I'm Catherine from SCB Housing, and I'm going to run the lottery for the 7 affordable rental units that are being made available at Meadows 1, Chicory Place Apartments in Nantucket. And if you have any questions during the lottery drawing or during kind of my spiel before it, just let me know. You can either type those questions into the chat box, or you can unmute yourself. You were muted when you came into this meeting, just so we can minimize any outside noise. So the meeting's being recorded. It's going to be saved to SCB Housing's YouTube channel after tonight. So anybody who wasn't able to join us is able to. And first, just want to give you some background information on the lottery, how many applicants applied. All of this information is going to be sent to you by email as well with the lottery results from tonight. So all households should already have their lottery application number, and those numbers go from A.001 to A.063 in this case. So if you don't have that, or if you forgot it, let me know. It should have been emailed to you. So there's 7 total affordable units, 63 total completed applications were received. So there's going to be 63 applicants in this lottery. For the 2 studio apartments, there were 24 applicants. For the one-bedroom apartment, there were 33 applicants. For the 4 2-bedroom apartments, there are 47 applicants. So back when you completed your application, you indicated your household type, and we confirmed that for you. So just keep in mind, for the 2-bedroom waiting list, type 2 households are going to have priority over type 1 households. And that's because the affordable housing program is designed so that households don't have priority for units with more bedrooms than their family might actually require. There's also local preference for the 2-bedroom unit. So that means that the local preference waiting list is going to have priority for local preference households. Non-local preference households are still going to have, if you applied for a 2-bedroom and you're a non-local preference household, you're still going to have a position on that waiting list. You'll just be below the local preference households on the list. There's going to be 2 drawings tonight. So I'll be using a website called random.org to complete the drawing. First, I'll do the local preference drawing. That's going to include the households who indicated on their application that they either live full-time in Nantucket or work on the island. And I'll be inserting the application numbers for those 48 local preference households into a list randomizer function, is what it's called, on random.org. I'll share my screen in a minute to show you what that means. And that's going to digitally generate a random order. So we're doing it that way to keep the results truly as random as possible. So after I do that local preference drawing, I'll then do the general drawing, which will include all 63 lottery application numbers as well. So like I said, the randomization will be instantaneous. So you'll be able to see it on your screen. I'm going to share my screen just for a second so you're able to have more of a sense of what that looks like. So I'm going to go to random.org and I'm going to share my screen really quick. This is just a demonstration. This isn't the lottery yet. But I'm sharing my screen. This is just a really basic website, random.org. I'm going to scroll down to list randomizer. And when I plug in the lottery application numbers in just a few minutes, they're going to be in the, format that you're used to, like A.001 and all the way down to A.063. For this purpose, just for the demonstration purposes, I'm going to write down, I'm going to put in 5 numbers, and then when I click randomize, it's going to reorder them. And that's going to be the lottery drawing. So again, this is just a demonstration for how this is going to look in a few minutes when I actually plug in the lottery application number. So I click randomize, and then it randomized it for us. So in this case, in this demonstration, the first number came up as number 5, and then it went from there. So that's what it's going to look like in just a few minutes. Like I said, I'll come back to that website and I'll plug in all of the lottery application numbers. All right, so once random.org generates that order of priority for me, I'm going to then sort the results onto the waiting list. I'll be doing that after the call, and you will be emailed the results later on tonight. So when we're actually doing the drawing tonight, you're not going to know the final order of the waiting list because, again, I have to sort the results by household type for the type 2, for the 2-bedroom waiting list, and by local preference as well for that 2-bedroom waiting list. So after the lottery, you'll get that email. I'll send it off to everybody tonight. And it will have a copy of the waiting list attached to it, and you will see your lottery number positioned on the waiting list. Maybe more than one waiting list if you applied for more than one unit size. So just make sure to look on all the waiting lists for your number if you did apply for more than one. So when you get that email, you're going to see that the top households on each waiting list will be highlighted in green, and that's because those are the households who are going to be invited to immediately move forward to the next step in the process, which is completing a lease application with the leasing office over at Meadows. So your contact information is going to be shared with the leasing office today, and you will also have their contact information sent to you with the lottery results tonight. Keep in mind, too, that the leasing office might invite more households than there are available units, just to keep the screening process going. And if you're found lease eligible based off of their qualifications, the households with the highest priority on the waiting list will have the first chance to select and reserve one of the apartments. So if you're not one of the top households on the waiting list that you received tonight, you won't be moving forward in the process right away. However, if for any reason top households on the waiting list ultimately decide not to rent one of the units, or maybe they are not found to be eligible, you will be contacted at a later time. So your takeaway should just be, you're not going to be contacted right away if you're not one of the top households on the waiting list, but if households ahead of you drop off, which certainly does happen all the time, you could be contacted a little bit further down the line. And again, it's important just to keep in mind that SEB Housing, we have only screened you for initial program qualifications based off of what your self-reported income was on your application. So you still have to go through the lease eligibility screening with the leasing office, and then you'll be referred back to us to submit your pay stubs or your self-employment information that we'll need to confirm your income. So just know that there's a few steps in the process still to come, and the lottery is kind of one of the first ones to kickstart everything else. You should have received a documentation requirements guide from us when you got your lottery application number. So you want to take a look at that just to see how many pay stubs you might need to send in and what types of documentation we'll need from you. You'll have about 10 days to get that into SEB Housing once you are invited to do so if you're one of the top households. The first affordable units are scheduled to be available for occupancy right away, so there shouldn't be much of a wait between your required screenings. If you are one of those top households, you'll be able to reserve an apartment and work with the leasing office to set a lease date once you're been qualified. And then just a quick reminder before the drawing. So households living in an affordable apartment are going to have a recertification every year. So if you move into one of these affordable apartments, the leasing office is going to contact you a couple of months before your lease renewal date. And so we just remind everybody to maintain sort of a file or something with your records in it. So easy access to bank statements, pay stubs, that tax documentation online, and that sort of thing. All right, any questions before I share my screen to do the actual drawing? Again, I apologize for the delay tonight. All right, I'm going to share my screen again. I'm going to go back to random.org and do the local preference drawing first for Meadows 1, Chicory Place Apartments in Nantucket. All right, so there it is again, random.org. I'm going to go to List Randomizer, and I'm going to plug in the local preference lottery application numbers. So there should be 48 numbers here. These are it's showing 49 just because there's a heading on the Excel sheet, by the way. So there's 48 numbers here. These numbers represent the 48 applicants for this lottery who identify themselves as a local preference household. So I'm going to go back over. I've copied those numbers, and I'm going to plop them into the list randomizer function. This is the 48 numbers here. And this is going to be the local preference drawing for Meadows 1 Chicory Place Apartments. So I'm going to randomize that. And this gave me an order of priority for the local preference household. So just give me a minute here to sort these numbers, not really sort them, but just have it be a little bit more easier to read for us. One second. I hide this first column so it doesn't cause confusion. So these are the results for the local drawing. There's the 48 numbers. I'm going to come back to that in a minute so everybody can take a look. I'm going to do the general drawing now. So I'm going to go back, and these are the 63 lottery application numbers. These represent everyone who applied for and was approved for this lottery. So all 63 households are going to be part of this drawing because it includes everyone, not just the local preference household. All right, so again, I'm going to copy and paste these 63 numbers, lottery application numbers, into the list randomizer, and it's going to generate a random order after I click randomize. So this is the drawing for the, again, for Meadows 1 Chicory Place Apartments, but this is the general drawing. So this includes everyone. And that's the order there. So I'm going to take that order, and I'm going to put it just on this spreadsheet here because it's a little bit easier for everyone to see. And I'm going to hide this column so it doesn't cause confusion. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the local preference drawing here, and I'm going to scroll down just so everybody can see the results. Hopefully you can see them a little bit better. If you were a local preference household, you should see your placement here. This really only applies to you if you applied for the 2-bedroom unit, because that's the only waiting list in this lottery that has local preference. So it would be beneficial for you to be a local preference household if you applied for a 2-bedroom. So I'm scrolling down the local preference drawing results here, and you should find your number if you were a local preference household. So your lottery application number over here is in column D. And then I'll go over to the general drawing. So this is going to have 63 numbers on it because this includes everyone. So there's about 15 or 16 lottery application numbers here that you can see. Those are the top households on the drawing here. I'm going to scroll down. And again, these aren't the waiting list yet because I still need to sort the results onto the waiting list. We don't know from looking at this who is a type 1 household, who's a type 2 household, and that matters for the 2-bedroom waiting list. So once I sort the results tonight, you'll get an email with the waiting list attached, and you'll also get kind of a breakdown that I gave you at the beginning of this call with, you know, how many people applied for each bedroom size and all of that. Did anyone not see their number that is curious where they where their number ended up in the drawing? You can let me know in the chat or unmute yourself, whichever. I can look it up for you. And if not, if everyone was able to see it, great. I can start working on this now, and you'll get an email from me with the waiting list attached. You'll know if you are one of the top households on the waiting list. And if you are, you'll be invited to move on to the next step in the process, which is to be screened by the leasing office over at Meadows for your lease eligibility screening. Any questions? You'll hear from me tonight. All right. You will hear from me tonight. Like I said, the email will come from info@sdbhousing.com. So just expect an email from that email address. Again, it's info@sdbhousing.com. And I appreciate your patience and your attendance tonight. So we'll be in touch very soon. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.